We continue our reading of God's dream for you, the chosen, a morning devotional by author Dwight K. Nelson. Today's reading, August 20, Journeying with the Jews, Part 1. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? Psalm 137, 1-4. Reflect with me for a moment on that retching of human history we still remember as the Holocaust. I once stood in the haunted silence of Auschwitz on the day after Easter, and I pondered the muted message its cold, dusty crematoriums yet speak to a world that still survives. But I did not cry. I once stood with my family in the sobbing stillness of Dachau. We trudged the long pathway from the black and white museum with its pictures of utter horror and numbing tragedy to the small brick crematorium on the edge of that death camp. This time, somebody did cry. We heard her sobs as we rounded the lush foliage that now surrounds that place of death. She was a student with a group of classmates on some prescribed field trip. They were Jews, and she, a young Jewish girl. There, beside the memorial statue, she wept, a classmate's consoling arm about her trembling shoulders. To my shame, I confess that I did not cry. But beyond the colossal proportions of this epic human tragedy, why should we cry and why should we weep, we who call ourselves Seventh-day Adventists? In the years that have passed since standing inside those death camps, I now realize there is reason to weep. When the brief history of time is written, I believe it will show that, like two matching bookends upon the shelf of sacred history, are two communities of truth that occupied the beginning and the end of salvation, history's story. Two communities of faith that are inextricably bound together by a shared faith, their divine calling to become the chosen ones. These two communities will bear the epithet, the remnant, and both shall know the meaning of the very high cost of truth. It is a curious calling, that name, the remnant, and you can trace its history back to Earth's pristine beginnings. For in the lives and deaths of Eve's two sons, Cain and Abel, are birthed two separate strands of history: the community of the remnant and the community of rebellion. The die was cast, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Revelation 12:17. And no wonder, for hadn't God promised that out of the woman would come a seed that would crush the serpent and save the race? This concludes our reading today of God's dream for you, the chosen.